is going to be, who is my neighbor? Oh, what a bold question. All right. Have you guys ever heard of the phrase "a good Samaritan"? And do you know what it means? Can you describe what is a good Samaritan? A good person? Just any good person? Super nice, good. William, what do you think a good Samaritan is? They pick up the slack. Okay, so okay, yeah. What do you think a good Samaritan is? All right. Now, do you guys think you are a good Samaritan? William, are you a good Samaritan? Or depends. What does it depend on? Actually, a good Samaritan, it shouldn't depend on anything. It's like the definition of a good Samaritan. All right, William. Is there any time where you think you were a good Samaritan? A good neighbor? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Helping someone with a project or giving your neighbors flowers. All right. Now, where do you guys think this phrase comes from? The Bible. Okay, we'll consider this. All right. So I'll give you guys a few scenarios. All right, and I'm gonna ask you what you guys will, what you guys would think you guys would do. All right. So if you see a shopping cart in a parking lot, what do you do? You leave it there? Yeah. So you wouldn't be a good Samaritan. Okay, I'll give you another scenario. Okay, what if your teacher asks for volunteers for something? So you always say yes, like no matter what it is. William, what do you do? Do you just sit there and just hope the teacher doesn't call on you and just like don't look at your teacher? Let's say she's like, oh, I need someone to move all these boxes after class. You have to stay a little longer. Let's say it's like 3 o'clock, and it's like, oh, no extra credit. Just like, oh, I just need someone to lift all these boxes. Probably take like an hour. You're like, would you just like shoot your hand and be like, me, I want to do it? No, no. She's asking like, anyone raise your hand if you want to volunteer for this, like volunteering hours and stuff. Oh well, this is kind of like that. It's like after class, they just want you to stay and run some errands for them. I guess like just lift some boxes and move them. All right, and then this is the final scenario. So some guy comes up to you and then says he needs to use your phone for something really important. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm lost. I need to use your phone real quick, please. I'm in." Oh, what if they don't? What if it's an elderly grandma? She comes up to you and says, "Oh, hello. I need to call my grandson to pick me up. I put my phone, I at home and I don't have it. Can I use yours?" You're gonna tell them no. So you wouldn't help a person in need. All right, let's consider this story. But what if they really need help? Oh, so you would be too skeptical to help. All right, let's. I think this fits the message of today's lesson very well. All right, so when God places someone in front of you, do you see this as an interruption or an opportunity to love? Do you see that old lady who wants to use your phone as a bothersome to you, or do you think that that's an opportunity to show your compassion for a helpless old lady? Or do you view it as, oh, why is she asking me? I don't want to. This could be a scam. Either or. All right. Well, let's keep that in mind as we read today's story. Depends on the area. All right. Well, that's also relevant to this story too. What if it's just like, or what if it's a student? What if it's just like some stranger at your high school that you don't know, but they're at your high school and they want to use your phone? You should probably say yes. What if you don't know them? Like it's just like some like upperclassmen, So you just ignore them. So okay, this is a story where they didn't know everybody. All right, let's read from the book of Luke, Luke 10 from verses 25 to 29. I'll just read it. So this story starts as on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? All right. He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as well. As yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? All right. So what happened, William? What happened in the story thus far? What's the context? Yes. Yes. All right. Yes. 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 So basically, what happened is a lawyer. He basically asked Jesus. He says he's basically asking him like, hey, how do I inherit eternal life and like go to heaven? He's kind of testing Jesus. And basically Jesus tells him, well, what does the Bible say? What does the law say? And then the lawyer, Luke, he's the lawyer. He says, love God, love your neighbor. That's what the Bible says to do. But then he wanted to kind of push it a little further, and he basically asked the question, well, love your neighbor, but like, who counts as your neighbor? Is it like the guy living right next to you? Is it like your best friend? Is it some random stranger that you don't know? Like, what is a neighbor? What counts as it? And I guess just dig a little further. He's basically asking like, what's the minimum requirement to be like who to be nice to? Do I have to just be nice to like my best friend, and that's easy? That's the minimum to get eternal life. He's asking like, what counts as my neighbor if all I have to do is love my neighbor? And then basically, this is Jesus' response. So this is from Luke 10, verse 30. So in reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. All right, I have a visual for this. All right, that's my visual. So yeah, there's a guy. He's like walking down the street basically, and gets beat and robbed, and he's like almost dead at this point. They took all his clothes, they took all his money. They beat him up, and then he's just laying on the floor. All right, I guess here's some like historical context. All right. So the road from Jerusalem to Jericho was 17 miles long, and it was descending steeply through rocky wilderness. There were a lot of places where a bunch of bandits and people could hide, and they would basically just attack people and steal their stuff. So it was already a pretty sketchy place. Okay. Now, I don't know why this picture's so big, but oh, it's basically covering it up. But basically, I'm asking, does Jesus ever tell us what this guy who got beat up, his name? William, do you know who the name of this guy is? It's very important. It like shows up later. Yeah. Do you know who it is? Do any of you guys know who it is? Do you know? I'm asking, do you guys know who the guy who got beat up is? No. All right. Yeah. So they don't actually tell us. So it's just some random stranger. Do you guys know what his occupation is? An important man. They don't tell us that either. What about his age? Yeah, they don't. Or his social status. Yeah, they do not tell us who this guy is. All right. Do you know why they don't tell us who this guy is? Exact. Well, actually, it's saying that it could be anybody. The person who got beat up could be anybody. It could be a rich person or it could be a poor person. It doesn't matter. The story, it concerns everybody. All right. Oh, I guess it did show up. All right. Yeah. See, he intentionally removed the labels in the story so that you couldn't possibly misinterpret this story. All right. I guess the question isn't, who deserves compassion. The question is basically, will anyone stop for this person? So, well, probably. All right, let's see who stops. Let's see who stops for this guy. All right, this is from Luke 10 verses 31 to 32. All right. So a priest happened to be going down the same road, and he saw the man he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. All right. Now, why do you think they didn't stop to help this man? So basically, in summary, a priest and a Levite came. So there's some pretty high, high class people. William, why do you think they didn't stop to help this person? They thought they had more important things to do. Or Rebecca, why do you think the priest, the holy man who's supposed to help everybody, saw this poor guy beat up and was like, oh, not my problem. It's all a joke. Oh, well, this is like all the way back then. It was probably not set up. It was like they basically went to the hood and then they found a person beat up, and so like, it makes sense. It's like this place is a dangerous place. He was too scared to help. I guess this is kind of the equivalent of a guy going to a hood and he's like cop. He's a cop, and then he sees someone beat up on the ground, and then being like, "I'm gonna ignore that." He's scared. Okay, I guess those are all fair reasons. I guess if I was there, I would probably also just ignore it. All right, so maybe they feared the robbers were still nearby, or maybe they were in a hurry. Like they got better things to do, like you said, William. Or maybe they were worried the man was already dead, and touching a corpse could make them ceremonially unclean. Because there was a priest. All right, or basically, maybe they assumed someone else would. Is there a time where you look at somebody in need and you think, yeah, someone else is gonna help, William, maybe Abby. Is there a time where you just said, hey, someone else will help that guy? I'm not gonna help them. I'm just gonna leave. So if a kid in your school, drop their pencil case and stuff, and then like picking it up on the floor and stuff, do you go up there and help them, or do you say, oh man, yeah, their friend will come? They're next to their friends will come help them. Hmm? You remember? Okay. Yeah. Uh, yeah. You see, those are some consequences. I think his social studies teacher, he asked for someone to ask a question. Nobody raised their hand, and then he got mad and then refused to basically teach them for like an entire class. You know, yeah, exactly. When a teacher asks you a question in class and you know the answer to the question, do you raise your hand or do you just say, "Hey, someone else probably knows the answer too," and they'll raise their hand, and then I know the answer, I'm right. I'm just not gonna raise my hand. If I'm wrong, that'd be super embarrassing. So do you just do that, or or do you actually raise your hand and say, "Oh, help out in the class"? But what if no one is raising their hand? It's easy to raise your hand when someone else is raising their hand. You're like, I think my answer is correct too, and then you raise your hand and try to beat them. But what if no one's raising their hand? And you feel like, wow, looks like you still raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing to do. So your teacher wouldn't go on strike. All right. So I guess this is the modern application. How often do we say, "Yeah, I'm too busy," or you say, "I'm sure someone else will, do it or help," or I don't know that guy. I feel like you guys all said these things in the beginning. Someone else is closer. Oh, depends on the proximity to them. Oh, it depends if they're my friend. Oh, I'm sure someone else will help them their friend. Or oh man, I'm too busy. Oh man, my mom's gonna get mad at me if I don't push my shopping cart in. These are all everything you guys said. All right. So how basically the question is, have I become someone that's so busy that I no longer notice people? All right. Let's wrap up this story. All right. This is just a continuation. So man's beaten down. Priest came, ignored him. Levi came, ignored him. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Yeah. Oh, now why is this so shocking? You know, this random guy showed up. So I guess the context of the story is like this is like some incredibly shocking story to so like why might you think this is so shocking to the lawyer to hear? I think you were on the right track. He had nothing to gain. Okay, so why the story was so shocking because the Samaritans were like straight up evil to the Jews. They like this Jewish guy, yeah, they were enemies. They had like super hostility. It's like, it's like if some like drug dealer guy came up to you and helped you, wouldn't you be like, whoa, this guy came? If you were in the hood and got beat up, and then the cop came and ignored you, but then some druggie came up to you and was like, okay, let me help you out here. Wouldn't you be like, whoa, this guy is so much better than that police officer? Like, why did this guy help me but not the cop? Exactly. Or like, like what if you're in school and then like, I don't know, you like tripped over and fell, and then your best friend was like, yeah, your friend was like, oh man, minus social credit here, minus oral, I'm not gonna stand next to you anymore. But then your like bully came up to you and was like, oh, let me help you out. Wouldn't you be like, wow, that really changed your idea of who your friend is? Exactly. See, that's why this story was so shocking to hear, basically. you know, if listeners expected anyone to help, oh, this is listeners to like back then. Like if people like Luke back then, expecting anyone to help, it would probably not have been a Samaritan. All right, let's see. Yet the Samaritan is the one who stops. All right, I don't know why that's in there still. All right, so you know, also to add, it sounds like the cost of compassion, it wasn't really free. The Samaritan not only helped him out, but he took the time to like actually like sit down, help this dude, make sure that he was comfortable. He used bandages to, and he used his own wine and oil to like disinfect his wounds and everything. And he even brought him to an inn and paid for it himself. So basically, it takes a lot of sacrifice to do something like this. So like, a good Samaritan isn't someone who's very like resourceful, or someone who's always really nice. Basically it's taking the time and money out of your own pocket to help somebody. So what is this compassion gonna cost me? I guess the question to reflect is, if loving others never inconveniences me, am I loving the way Jesus describes? Do you guys love your friends the way that Jesus wants you to love your friends? Do you guys love your friends the way that Jesus wants you to love your friends? Really? Okay, so if your friend comes to you and was like, I need to borrow $20, do you give them $20? What if it's a stranger? What if it's you see yeah, you see it's just $20. They're like, oh, like an old lady, she doesn't have the bus fare money. She's like turns to you, $3 for the bus fare, please. You know? Yeah, but what was $3? Random stranger, old lady. You give it to an old lady? Okay, but what if it's a really tall, like beefy, muscular man? He's like, please, please, I need to go see my dog. Okay, so get a jail. So basically, you guys saying, you guys aren't really, showing the compassion that Jesus wants you to show to people. Because it's easy to show compassion to your friends, but it's really hard to show compassion to some random person, And that's what Jesus kind of wants you to do. He wants you to be, a very nice, generous person. Yeah, if they need it, if they need help, if it's my last $20, you know, you gotta let God take care of it. Is $20 that much? Okay, okay, maybe it's that much for you guys, but maybe like $3. Let's tone it down. If it's just like $3, you guys all probably have like $3 somewhere. You can give up. Just to be nice. Actually, I got a small story. Before we wrap this up a little bit, I guess that I just thought of. Do you guys know what the like? I guess like have you guys ever went to like Tangram? Yeah, like that like anime store like on the second floor. I don't think it's Pop Mart. Yeah, it's like some like place, and there's like a little raffle thing that they have in the front, like the Ichiban Fuji thing. Yeah, yeah. Have you guys ever done that before? Yeah. Do you guys ever win? No, you guys all get like the F tier stuff, the E tier. Yeah. So there was like what you call it? I don't remember. Is it Miffy? It's like the there was one during like Christmas time. I think it was like the Miffy one, and then I think I did it right. So I did it and I won. I got the A prize. It was like a ginormous plush elephant. So basically, so I got the thing, and then I walked out of the store, and then there was like a family right next to the store entrance, like a bunch of little like three like little kids, like three kids, like little children. And they're like crying, they're bawling their eyes out, right? And then actually right before that, I was talking to the cashier. The cashier was like, "Yeah, family just spent like $120 on this thing, and they lost." And then I was like turn around and I was like, oh shoot. Actually, my girlfriend was there with me, and she was like, "You think it's them?" And then we're like, "Yeah, it's them." So we went up to them. We're like, "Do you guys want this? Do you want the?" Because like, how am I gonna take this home, basically? Like I was like, I'm not gonna carry this like giant plushie like for like the rest of my day. Like it was the start of my day, basically. So we basically just gave it to them, and then they gave us like some of their like F tier stuff, but like because they thought it would be unfair if they just took it. We were like, whatever. It was only like a few dollars. It was like $20 for us. They spent $120. They spent $120 on it. So we felt a little bad, but then they were all really grateful for it. So if you were in that position, would you guys have done the same? Well, they spent $120. We spent $20. It was a family of like three little kids are crying their hearts out. They're like, oh, you know. So like, if you guys were in that same position where you got the A tier item, would you give it? What if you guys? Oh yeah, I guess for the recording then. All right. Well, basically, it's nice to do nice things. They seem pretty happy about it. All right, let's just finish off the story right here. All right, so this is the conclusion to the story. So Jesus basically asked the lawyer guy, which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robber? Now, the expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. All right. So instead of asking, who deserves my love, Jesus asks, will I choose to love? All right. So it kind of answers the question, Lynn. Actually, let me ask someone else. Rebecca, who is your neighbor? Who does Jesus want you to be your neighbor? The whole story is basically some lawyer guy asking, hey, what is considered my neighbor when you say love thy neighbor? Is it like the guy next to me? Comprehension, you can figure it out from the story. I chose you. I picked you. Just shoot a guess. Who is your neighbor? A very kind old lady. Okay, basically it's just everyone, any stranger. It doesn't have to be someone with high, like high social status or anything, or someone that you like. It's just anyone. Everyone is your neighbor. I think when we say that, I think it means like actually like say hi to the people around you. But like love thy neighbor is like love anybody without like condition. Yeah, which is kind of the opposite of what you guys said in the beginning, where you were like, I like them, I'll help them, but it depends. No, it should not depend. You should help them anyway. What if it's for a bad thing? Okay, if some guy is robbing the store, they're not really in need of help. They're doing it selfishly. If someone actually needs help with something, well, it's okay. I guess. All right, let's wrap this up. The conclusion. All right. So the Good Samaritan story reminds us that our neighbor isn't determined by similarity, friendship, or convenience. A neighbor is a person whose need we are willing to meet with compassion. What? Okay. This week, don't just ask who is my neighbor. You gotta ask yourself like, who do I have the opportunity to become a neighbor to?